A British documentary about the death of Jimi Hendrix called The Last 24 Hours was recently produced. On the morning in 1970 when Jimi died, he was in the London flat of his German girlfriend named Monica Dannemann. Suddenly, the narrator for this British documentary starts to misrepresent facts regarding research that I'd done.
Of many inconsistencies in Monica Dannemann's story, although the inquest into Jimi's death believed her. Over 20 years later, Kathy Etchingham, a longtime girlfriend of Hendrix, and archivist Steve Roby re-examined all of Monica's testimony and found glaringly irreconcilable differences.
I'd done the research with Kathy Etchingham, Jimi's British girlfriend, over several years, but The Last 24 Hours incorrectly credits Mr. Robbery instead. My research was extensively published in the early 1990s, and several media outlets reported what I'd done, so the facts about what happened are dated and easily seen.
The local man is responsible for a new investigation into the death of Jimi Hendrix. Coming up tonight at 11, find out how Michael Fairchild convinced Scotland Yard to reopen the case.
The death of Jimi Hendrix was ruled an overdose. This local man has Scotland Yard reopening the case.
Over in London, Scotland Yard officials are reopening the investigation into the death of rock giant Jimi Hendrix.
Now, when Hendrix died, like many people, Fairchild felt cheated, but because of his own work, he may soon be vindicated. Fairchild is partly responsible for a new Scotland Yard investigation into Hendrix's death.
The popular young rock singer Jimi Hendrix died today in London, according to a police source, from an overdose of drugs.
It has been believed that Hendrix caused his own death, drinking alcohol, taking barbiturates, then choking on his vomit. Fairchild has parlayed his Hendrix obsession into a writer-research position with the Hendrix estate. His research and writings have now created doubt in the theory of Hendrix's death. He's relieved someone is finally listening. Now, the man who literally keeps Hendrix alive through his writings is now working on a book with one of the rocker's former girlfriends.
The book that this report mentions is a manuscript I've been working on for several years with Kathy Etchingham. This is the original story that explains the new details about how Jimi died. In the summer of 1992, I began to excerpt these details into a series of articles that are the first published accounts of what we discovered about Jimi's death. Mr. Robbery had no involvement at all with the research contained in the manuscript I'd written with Kathy, and Mr. Robbery had no involvement in researching or writing my published articles that were the first reports of new information about how Jimi died. In December of 1993, one of England's main newspapers sent a reporter to the U.S. to interview me about my research. Here's a recording of our conversation.
Reporter with the Mail on Sunday?
Oh, yes, in England.
Yeah, right. Right, I've been following the articles over with Scotland Yard.
I bet you have. They're pretty weird, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been helping out Kathy for, several years trying to, research odds and ends details with the story, so I've been following it as it goes along. I have a huge file on all the...
I bet you do.
Well, how did you find out my involvement?
Oh, God. An anonymous source, not him.
Oh, I see. Well, I work for the Hendrix Estate company, which is...
I know you do. They
right.
gave me your number, but they didn't tell me about you. I mean, I was just told about you from one of my best industry sources who frankly said you were the oracle.
Well, you see, there were only 4 articles that were written on the development of the Scotland Yard, the investigation, and I'd written 3 of them. It's sort of like the most concise description.
Which ones did you write?
There, the first one was called the Etchingham-Mitchell Files.
Where was he? Where was it? Because my person said he'd written on this, but he didn't know where the articles appeared.
Right, there's a magazine called Straight Ahead, the monthly one in San Francisco. I'd written a series of 3 articles. One was Interview with Kathy Etchingham, where we defined the issues, which was in an article called Why Take 5 Hours to Call an Ambulance. Then the last one I wrote, which sort of summed up what was at stake and also pointed out some discrepancies in Eric Burden's testimony and Monica Danima's, that was called Christians in Rome, which sort of... there was an interview Eric Burden had given.
God, I tell you something, you're very gutsy given the libel laws, to do this, because, I'd be terrified, I think everyone's been frightened for years of, libel.
What we're doing at this moment, though, is I'm acting as an agent for Kathy's story with 3 major publishing houses in New York, and I've been in touch with them.
Oh, you mean her book?
Yeah. So
what we wanted to do in the Mail on Sundays, you see, we're doing a big wrap-up piece on the whole thing and how it's been reopened.
Uh-huh.
What they wondered was whether, and we know you're another writer, so I didn't know what your parameters were, but whether I could come and talk to you.
Sure,
Oh, you're amazing. You haven't even talked to anyone in London?
Oh, yes, I have. I'm in Scotland Yard. I've been helping them out and passing them information, like to contact people. I've talked to Alan Douglas last night to put him in touch. I went over the case with him, and Kathy and I talk all the time. We're like best friends. I mean, we're the ones,
I can't tell you my sources, but I was told by someone who knows this case that they owe everything to you.
Kathy had done the interviews with Mitch Mitchell's wife. All I did really was interview them and sum the things up in articles that sort of presented it in a way that was coherent that people could digest.
Dear, give me your address. And I'm Sharon, and my last name's Churcher, Churcher. I'm really thrilled I found you. Because we've had so much BS, quite honestly, thrown at us on this case.
Well, I think I can help sum things up, what's at stake and what the state of the investigation is, and also...
That'll be great. I'm really excited, and I'll see you very shortly.